Okay, I think we're live. All right. How's it going?
It's going okay. Definitely noticed a bit of shift activity recently. Um, Definitely felt like the kind of I don't want to say pains, but like discomfort that one might associate with that. So I think we're going to see even more stuff as we go forward here.
Yeah, it's weird. It's no doubt things are ramping up, and it's very strange. And now that the great experiment is underway, the our vision quest, um, I've got to wonder how much of that is going to be, at least in our circle, will actually be generated by us, by kind of creating the kind of energy, that could possibly surround all of us that are trying to make something happen here.
Yeah, for sure. I would like to see what happens with that because I think that a lot of it seems to be subconscious. Like when, the examples I've seen is like when you aren't, when people are just joking or there isn't a directed effort, then weird things happen. But it would be definitely interesting to see if with a conscious rather than subconscious effort, if anything happened.
Yeah, and that's sort of something I wanted to talk about with this great experiment is that, what we did before with the Andy Warhol and the water on the moon and everything, it was exactly like you were saying, was that it was kind of just a in passing kind of thing. And I'm wondering if are we going to have the opposite where it's nothing will actually happen if we concentrate and try to make some kind of objective change where in the news maybe the Philadelphia experiment will be revisited, or there'll be some rediscovering about the Philadelphia experiment, or there'll be something surrounding Philadelphia shipyard, or just something that's obvious that is around the news that everybody who's doing the doing the experiment with us, if it'll just come to all of us naturally, like the Andy Warhol and the moon thing, or the water thing. And I'm wondering if that's something that we could actually. The whole point is to see if we can actually enact change through our intention, and then through our actions by doing these steps over and over and over again. And if that's the case, then we'll have to take it from there. We'll have to extrapolate what that means from there. But just doing this itself, is probably it's got to make some kind of difference, I think.
I think, yeah, I'm not sure, like, if it's going to be something really weird and unexpected. I'm not sure exactly how. I have kind of a feeling like the Mandela Effect is going to be tongue in cheek with its response, and
Mhm.
I'm wondering exactly what we're going to get here. That there's, quite a few of us. Uh, I suppose I don't want to say joining in, but doing this experiment to see exactly what occurs when you put an idea out there or you're thinking of a particular thing with the Mandela effect put into the context of it. Because I don't know if we were talking about World War II, but we sure saw some changes with that, with the shift after the second. So I wonder if it's maybe something we'll see next month or sooner than that.
Yeah, and that's a great thing is that my hope is that it's something that's very obvious to us and it's somehow connected. And I've already resigned myself to the fact that even if this does work in some way, it's going to be only obvious to the people that participated. It's like we're the ones with sort of the glasses where you can see and you can actually see the real meaning behind something. But I'm hoping that everybody spends some of their time and some of their energy with the instructions that I have here, where we talk about the USS Eldridge, October 28th, 1943, and then we try different, whatever you're comfortable with the visualization techniques or the meditation techniques, with the coordinates of the Philadelphia Navy Yard. And by all of us doing that, at different times and sort of hammering at it at different times and different ways in which we do it and kind of keep this thing loose. I also too, someone had already brought up, why not try writing down the coordinates too, perhaps, maybe like over and over again is a way in which to kind of intensify it. And I thought that's kind of a good idea too. And I just think that just actually rather than just talking about the Mandela effect and being sort of victims of circumstance in terms of it doing things to us, can we become active participants in this happening? And it's just, there's something incredibly, for me at least, it feels very empowering, at least to me, that even if I'm just shooting in the dark here and we really don't know what we're doing right now, at least we're trying something. And with our intent being just trying to get some kind of reflection back, that I think that that it's something that we're not, I don't feel as if we're tinkering with something dangerous. I feel as if we're just trying to explore and see and understand the reality or that's been presented to us. That's very loose and kind of it's not very solid at this point,
That's true. It's not, and it is having a note of kind of ambiguity to everything that seems to let effects happen easier. Like if there's that possibility of doubt, then it's much more likely that a Mandela effect will happen, like even just all on its own. Because if there's kind of a little drop of doubt in the situation, then people can always say, oh no, it didn't change. There's, whatever reason they present. And I think with this particular thing, because it's so mysterious, the Philadelphia experiment, even if it changed completely, people would still say, oh, that doesn't, it didn't even exist. That's just a story. Isn't that what you said about Wikipedia, that it's a conspiracy theory, like it didn't happen? So there's that note of, there's that wiggle room there that seems to come along with a lot of Mandela effects of it changed, but only if you can see that it changed. For people who don't want to see that it changed, there's always like an excuse sitting right there.
But I think this is directed towards our audience, meaning people like us that are already affected, and we sort of got the feel and the vibe. We've got sort of the right frequency to understand whether or not this was something that was a response to us. And going back to the water parks and that thing that we ended up doing by accident, I think you really had to be there at that moment in time, and you really got to sort of get it. And I think as long as we're comfortable with those of us, it being kind of a closed group, and that you have got to be part of the experiment, you've got to be in these chat rooms with us, you've got to be following us. And if you're comfortable not trying to persuade the rest of the world outside of our group here that's in right now, then I think that we're going to feel success. It's going to be much, much better defined than if we were to try to go to the world in the outside world, even the broader conspiracy community, and go, look, the Mandela effect is conscious. We concentrated on things changed in accordance to our concentrations. No, we weren't looking for a specific target or anything. But still something eerie and strange did change. And I think if we can be happy with the idea that you first have to believe kind of thing, then I think that victory or us showing that, we did something of value is going to be much, much easier for us to kind of cope with.
True. I think like, even if I just got, or we rather just got a response, like a 10-4 message received, even without massive changes, it would still be quite the result, because it would show that there's something on the other end, like there's something on the other end of the phone line, so to speak. Because trying to narrow down the effect, if there was a way to, be able to say, okay, well, obviously, to some degree, this thing is conscious, to some degree, it can hear us, or it's witnessing what we're doing, or to some degree, it's aware, then the very next question, obviously, is, where are we? What happened? Why are we here? Kind of deal. And it would be awesome if there was some way to actually get answers for those questions. because I know I've been going over those questions for a couple of years now, and it's just really difficult to get close to that answer. You just keep digging
Right.
off in different directions, and it's brought me down some amazing, paths of thought and possibility. But I think the whole community, if possible, like if we can even start trying to find answers through this method or through any method, I'm sure we'd be greatly relieved just to know what's going on.
Yeah, and that's the thing with this method that we're trying. It's the first time that I know of where that at least that I've with any group that we're actually being active and we're trying to communicate and to participate and to see if our actions can make a difference. And you're right. Even I would consider it a resounding victory if we can just get a nod of yes, you know, we or I or it or whatever the Mandela effect is, we've been heard, and yes, even that in any way, as long as it's not ambiguous to all of us that are involved and all of us that really are sitting down like I am. I repeat it 3 times, the USS Eldridge date, and then I do my best visualizations I can on that naval yard with those coordinates and being a part of that, and considering and I'm taking notes too. Like yesterday, I realized that every time that I went and I did this series of steps that I was incredibly exhausted afterwards, like it was drained from me, but I didn't get anywhere near the kind of visualization that you did because I think your talents, perhaps in the astral plane, are much more powerful, or your talents of meditation or your talents of prayer are much more powerful than mine. And that may just be your spiritual frequency, maybe just a bit more dialed up than mine is. But I got to a point where I could hear water crusting like you would over near a boat, and I got so exhausted just hearing that. And that's as far as I've gotten so far. Do you want to share how far you've gotten, or no? Is that something you want to keep to yourself? Or because I mean, your stuff was pretty interesting.
I suppose I can just say to people like that. So I didn't do anything crazy or complicated or anything like that. I think I'm just kind of visual already, like that's kind of dialed in. And if you kind of like present something to me, most of the time I'll get like a visual picture straight away of something. And in this case, that's exactly what I did with this, is I just thought of the USS Eldridge and the Philadelphia experiment, and I got the visual straight away of what I could see when I just thought about that. So, and I started writing down like what, I was seeing. And I guess I suppose it was good to write it down in case it changes, or in case, and like I said, this is just like what I picture when I saw it. It's not like a photograph of the place. It's not a historical documentation of the place. It's nothing like that. It's just like my impression of it visually from just approaching the subject. So when I thought about the USS Eldridge, I saw like the docks, and I saw in the shipyard, and I saw the Eldridge. I saw like the bottom half of it as being a mahogany brown, and the top half of it is a white. And I saw the weather vanes for the actual Philadelphia experiment like behind the cabin. So the main cab is up on front where they have a lot of the controls, everything like that. And right behind that is the vane, the weather vane. It kind of looks like an umbrella with the material taken off. I don't know if any of you have ever seen like just the bare frame of an umbrella, but it kind of reminded me of that. And then down below that, like, it's almost as if they gutted the ship and like customized, like fitted it out to fit these big Tesla coils. So underneath where the cabin is, because the cabin is quite elevated, there's some of the large copper coils, and then right underneath the weather vane there's some copper coils. So with the cab kind of hanging over the first 2 large copper coils, it's almost like they're semi-covered, but the ones under the weather vane are not so covered. And then I like had a visual of the guys that were working there, that they were wearing these like overalls that were like a denim blue, but like not like a white faded denim, like a cornflower blue faded denim. But there was no like ID tags, or there wasn't anything obvious that said like U.S. Navy or anything like that. And it was pretty unusual, because I've been to a lot of docks actually in a lot of different countries, and I have never seen anyone wearing like blue outfits. I think because it matches up with the sea too much. Like it's not, I've never seen that before. It's always like a highlighter orange, or some kind of safety color like that. But in this situation, it seemed to be like very toned down: black shoes, blue overalls, and just people like kind of gathered outside of the ship. I didn't actually see anybody on the ship. So that was basically kind of the overall visual I got, just thinking about the Eldridge just in general and the Philadelphia experiment. Now, I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's here nor there, because that's literally just what I'm thinking. But it'd be interesting to see if a detail like that came up, or if a very different detail came up, afterwards, when the experiment is over. I did write all of this down. I'm just recalling from memory now a bunch of the things I said, but a bunch of the things I saw, rather. But yeah, that's that's what I've got there.
That's amazing. And I think one of the real powerful things you're talking about is particularly those coils, because all the documentation I've read about the actual experiment on that particular day, they did exactly that. They refitted the ship so they could have those coils out there. And those coils, that's a really big, that's a really great thing to look out for, that makes the ship kind of custom from any other ship in any other harbor that you could have been. That's great. And obviously, U.S. ships probably, and modern U.S. ships, they probably a lot look alike, particularly if they're destroyers or their frigates or their or their supply ships or aircraft carriers. But whenever you have something that's a part of a destroyer group, and then that ship has those customized coils there, that really stands out. So that means you were getting there, and that's awesome. And that's what this is about, and just by, I'm hoping, my hope is that just by some of us, because we are frequencies, just some of us reaching through space and time and getting to that place, there'll be enough of a ripple, there'll be enough of a noise that ME notices, and it actually responds, either because it has to, or because as we're speaking right now, we're asking it to. And for anybody just showing up now, what we're doing is, I call it the Vision Quest, because I named it after the 1980s movie Vision Quest. And because, the Mandela Effect seems to affect a lot of movies, and a lot of them from the 80s, I thought it would be kind of tongue in cheek and kind of cool to name this thing the Vision Quest, because it's about this kid. He's in high school and he's a wrestler, and he's on this vision quest, and to be like number one, and to like make a difference in his life. And there's a lot of things that would be a perfect parable to what we're trying to do. And what our vision quest is simply all of us taking our energy, our group energy, putting it together, and just trying to get some kind of nod, or some kind of anything from the Mandela Effect, any kind of response from the Mandela Effect, or any kind of response from history for it to change. And that we somehow can say we were part of that, and that we asked and we received from whatever this thing is, this force, this power. And I think this is the first time anybody that I know of, at least publicly in the ME community, is trying to actively, rather than just observe, rather than just talk about something, we're actively trying to do something where we're reaching out. And I thought combining some things with rituals, like a ritual is something you do over and over again, and if you do it enough and you churn the butter enough, or you churn the cream enough, you get butter. So that's sort of like that ritual where you can make that sort of change in the world. And I'm thinking, if we do the same kind of thing, even if all of us do, and it's probably best that we all do something slightly different in the way we meditate at different times, but we try to do it every day. And if there's only 30 or 40 of us, or even if there's 15 or 20 of us, just enough of energy that it sort of makes it where the Mandela effect, or whatever it is behind it, we can kind of give us an idea that yes, indeed, it is listening. It has heard us, and or there is some kind of change going on, and that's really what we want to do, is actively make a change in the universe through our thoughts, our intentions, and our actions. And that's just for everybody who's just getting involved now. That's what we've been trying to do for the past 4 or 5 days. Um, I think the day that we actually started it was 9/4. So we've been at it for 4 days now. And every time I get on, I make notes, and I'm listening to everybody, and I'm trying to respond to every comment I get that talks about this. And hopefully we can really get some kind of feedback from the Mandela effect.
Well, was I in the comment section? I can hear myself in the background. Sorry. Was I in the comment section has said the original Philadelphia experiment date has already changed. So superposition wise, this little nod to the Mandela effect, it may have already changed the date before the experiment began because it's not running in linear time.
Interesting. Well, I know that it was October 28th. I'd like to find out what the change may be, because it could be already underway. I like you said, I was expecting it to take maybe a month or something like that. But if we can start getting some changes or some understanding, back earlier, that would be great. But I would love for it to be something really big that we all can go, holy smokes, like an Andy Warhol on the moon moment. That's what I would like.
For sure. I'm just checking right now to see if it's changed from October 28th or if it was on a different day and changed to October 28th. So it still says sometime around October 28th, 1943 on the Wikipedia page for the Philadelphia experiment. So the date that we were familiar with is still the date. So it's possible that Was-I remembers a different date if he was looking into it earlier and there was a change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Was-I said, I already told you, SNQ. I'm sorry if I missed that. Was-I? I try to write down and remember as much as possible. If okay, it was originally August 12th. That's right. That's right. You mentioned that to me. Was-I did already mention that, that it was August 12th, but I thought that it was August 12th, and then they had to scrap it, and then they had to do, because it didn't work or something, or they tried it for like 30 minutes and it freaked them out or something. Yeah, that's what I thought. I did respond. Yeah, that's right. Was-I? But I went back and I looked at that for Was-I, and they had already said that they had to scrap it for that August 12th date, and then they had to do it again. So there was a second time, and it wasn't the August 12th. It was that second time in October is when everything went nuts, and we came up with the Philadelphia experiment that we all are aware of now. So that's what I was able to look into later. That's right. So
Good. Okay. That's good, because otherwise I'm just getting confused about which date we're starting with. Because, I mean, yes, when you bring the Mandela effect into the situation at all, you're never sure exactly if the information that you're starting with is the Mandela effect.
yeah. And the thing about this is, it's I'm learning now, even with the sort of small and intimate audience we have, trying to remember and keep up is because people are giving bits of information they're all important and they're all interesting, and it's a beast keeping up with everything. I can tell you that. So
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm not on much right now because I've got 100 million things going on, but I'm trying, guys. So I don't even get that much comments, but I still, when I log in and see a bunch of comments, I know what you mean. It's like I gotta keep up and gotta try and answer everyone as best as I can.
Wow, UFO guy spaceman. He said his wife's driver's license still says 5'7" and she's 5'4" now. Wow.
Yeah, I've heard that with the last shift, the shift on the 6th, people started saying that they were shorter or their loved ones were shorter, that everyone was getting shorter.
Holy smokes.
So I don't know what the story was with that. I don't personally feel any shorter, but I haven't measured myself, so I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't either. So hopefully I'm still my same height. I mean, gee whiz. So I mean I wasn't topping 6 foot anyway, so I need every inch I can get. Gee whiz. So we're doing this thing. We're doing this thing, and it's kind of one thing I've noticed, like I was saying, is that I'm exhausted afterwards when I do it, and I'm wondering if anybody is there anybody out there in the chat now? And I'm looking at the chat. Are you guys actually taking part in this? Because I know Chicken and I are doing this. Or is there anyone else that's taking part in the Vision Quest experiment with us? Anybody out there? Even if you're doing it, you don't have to be doing it, every day. Just have you taken part at least once or twice? I'm waiting for. Okay, Jamie says yes. Excellent. Thank you. Yes, Pegs says she is awesome. That's yeah. UFO for every inch you can get. Yeah. Okay. A Dark Slayer. Yes. All right. Excellent. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay. Excellent, guys. That's wonderful. And if something comes to you, or you get some of the visions like I'm starting to get. Yeah. Elder TV. Excellent. And Chick is already having. Don't be shy. Share them with us. Who knows where this could end up. So that's awesome. That's really wonderful. So how are you doing today, Chick? What's going on?
I'm just like trying to keep up with everything. I've been really tired. I think because there's been a double shift. There was like a shift on the 2nd and a shift on the 6th. There was barely any geo shifts on the 2nd, so I was waiting for more changes to come in before I did my usual live stream. And then there were
Yeah.
definitely some changes there on the 6th. The eastern United States is looking very, very different last night. Um, Seemed to be like New York State bordering Toronto, which is all kinds of like crazy stuff. I haven't checked the map today, so everything could have changed all over again. But I've
Yeah.
definitely been physically feeling it. Like I'll have these weird moments where my back is like really sore and then it's not sore at all. And then it's really sore and then it's not sore at all. And I don't know what's happening with that. I hope it's not that I'm getting shorter because I'm not
Yeah.
that tall either, so I don't want to like lose too much height here, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like average height, but I'm like, no, I don't want to get too much shorter or any like close enough to the ground here. Um, yeah. So, and then the other thing I've been feeling is like random, almost like random, like a lump in your throat or like pressure on your heart, and then it just
Uh-huh.
disappears. So I thought for a minute that maybe like the heart was changing position again or something, but I'm actually not sure. I haven't seen much evidence of that. I have seen with the skull, though, the human skull, that the very front of the jaw seemed to be different. Like there was a ridge in the front of the jaw that was like matching up with the canine teeth as of yesterday. So I'm not sure if that's changed again today or not because I didn't get to look this morning.
So Jamie says vision of dark water, dark ships, and sort of black and white. And then Agent Smith is talking about looking at the shipyard itself. Sorry to bust in there. I wanted people in the chat room to know I'm actually watching the chat room and I'm paying attention because I just really appreciate everybody what they're talking about. And as far as what you're talking about, Chick, I know for me personally, it wasn't my heart, but it was at the bottom of my sternum. I know I was in absolute agony about 2 days ago, and I thought that it was, my acid reflux acting up again, and, I actually went out. It was so painful. I went out to, and it could have been, I think it's a shift now. You said the 2nd and the 6th, so that would make sense 2 days ago. I was feeling it then during the shift the 5th, then I was feeling it 3 days ago as it was ramping up because it was right at the bottom of my sternum. I was in absolute agony. It's near my heart, sort of. And I ended up finding this home remedy with baking soda. and I started taking that, and it started to help with the pain, but it was bad. It was where I couldn't sit up straight. I had to lay out on my back in order to take the pressure off of my sternum. Is that and that it was so bizarre and it was so painful, but my jawline, that's already changed as well. So I know what you're talking about, but I had my jawline changes probably a couple months now.
I hear you. Like I couldn't see anything different, like on my face. It was literally
Mm,
just looking at anatomy on like Google image search of like the face and the skull and the ribs to see like was there anything obvious that had changed. Like I'm looking at the ribs right now, and it seems to be that we're kind of in the middle of a shift because there's two different human rib cages. Actually, I see three different human rib cages, and the bones are all different around the bottom of the sternum in the three different rib cages. It's
mm,
actually very confused looking right now, but like in some of the rib cages, there's a lot of like fusing at the bottom of the bones. Some of them
okay.
seem to have like almost like a little loop on each side, like a bone at the bottom of the sternum of the rib cage. And then
Yeah.
others are very square rib cages, and others are very round rib cages. So we have a whole bunch of different types of human beings right now for whatever
Yeah.
reason. I don't know how the medical community makes sense of this, that everyone's got their own unique rib cage.
Weird. And that's kind of heartening to hear that it wasn't just me and my stomach acting up. It was where that's interesting that yeah, you're seeing that in the exact spot where I was in pain, and that's where it was happening while we were all conscious then. Like we were actually then going through the change as it was actually happening to us. Wow, that's crazy.
Crazy and definitely uncomfortable. Like, I mean, it's good
Mhm.
because you know that, okay, there was a shift because everything hurts, but the bottom side being everything hurts and the shifts like occur way too
Mhm.
often. um, the skull does look very different today than it looked last night. It actually looks kind of a lot more like the old Earth skull. I'm looking at like the human skulls right now, Google image search. If anyone else is like
Okay.
Googling away with this, and it seems to be a lot smaller and slimmer. It's not like as big and square and clunky as a lot of the more recent skulls have been. It still has the six holes, the foramen drilled into the face. And it does still seem to have the ridges. Yeah, those ridges from last night are still there that kind of accentuate the canine teeth a lot.
I'm I just want you to know I'm pulling up images now. Yeah, look at that. Look at that brow ridge. And then I see the two holes and then a hole on top of the hole for the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the that jawline is protruding out in a very unnatural looking way. That's very strange.
Yeah, you see the top part of the jaw, like how much the teeth are like sticking out, like the bone part. It
Yeah,
looks really strange.
just it's almost like a flap of bone that's coming out from under the actual teeth themselves. That's and then of course obviously there's the drill marks in the actual you know what it's almost like those drill marks that are actually in the that are in the chin. You know, you wonder if they drill those in there to make the movements.
Strange, isn't it? It's
Like the
kind of like,
fasten, like
mm-hmm.
there's a machine to fasten to the skull and to help move the skull. So you would have to actually anchor something to the skull. That's just something I just thought of, just throwing stuff out. That could sound totally crazy, but just thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like that's the part, well, one of the many parts of this whole thing that doesn't make sense is why would these holes just showed up all of a sudden. Like for me, it was last year, and they've
Mhm,
even moved since then because the two drill holes above the eyes used to be further away from the eyes, and
mhm.
they were called the orbital foramen, and now the holes are like right above where well, I suppose they're still eye sockets, but they have bones behind them, so I'm not even sure what. I'm just calling them the eyes. So now
Mhm.
the foramen are right up on top of the eyes, and they're called the supraorbital foramen. So they're different than they even were when they first showed up.
You know, you're right because whenever I went to that museum in Philadelphia, I remember distinctly because there were so many skulls there. You're absolutely right. Those drill holes were not directly above the eyes like that. They were closer. They were further apart, and they were closer to the temple. Um, yeah, that's that's weird. It already looks so different now.
I just I can't help but just get a creepy feeling, like when you said about that it, you know, these machined looking drill holes, it looks as if something drilled there, and that's part of the skull changing process. And I just can't help but get like a weird feeling when you say that. And I don't want to think of life as like The Sims or something, but I can't help but think that something really bizarre and artificial is going on, because why, in a natural evolutionary stance, why would you need six holes in your face?
Right. Yeah, what is the purpose of those holes? It's just so strange, and I know what the official purpose is, but it just doesn't make any sense because the body doesn't need to act that way on any other part of the body in order to get, to get sensation and feeling. It's just so strange. It just doesn't.
Exactly. It doesn't, you don't have to have holes through the rest of your bones to have sensation and to have nerve endings, but, and faces worked just fine before there was any holes in the skull. So how come those faces didn't need, you know, foramen everywhere? And also, most
Mm.
people don't know the words foramen. If they were always in the skull and they were always there, how come, like, usually I'm the only one I hear mentioning this, even to people who are doctors?
Yeah, that's weird, right? That is interesting. Hey, that's a great test. Go to just a normal doctor that's not ME affected at all, and try to find something that doesn't make any talked about and ask them about it and see if they don't have any idea what you're talking about. That would further prove, at least to you, that yes, indeed, this ME that you're thinking may be an ME, it actually is an ME. If they don't know the name of a particular organ or how a particular process has changed or something, that would be very interesting. But it would further make things more disturbing that you have doctors practicing on people and not knowing that these new things are happening with the body.
True. Like if you go and you say, I have a problem with my supraorbital foramen, and they don't know what that is,
Mhm.
then you're like, I
Mhm.
might need a different doctor if you're
Right.
not sure exactly like what's going on here.
Could you imagine having ME doctors and non-ME doctors, and all the doctors are clamoring to have the ME updates one day? Could you imagine that if they did a white paper on this?
Oh yeah, like I'm not sure how the white paper is going to explain away the situation that we do have right now, where some doctors are Mandela affected, so they don't know the current body, and then other doctors are non-affected and they get all the updates automatically, so they don't need to worry about it. So
Mhm,
I'm not
mhm.
sure how, like, the white paper that comes out in the future that says, "Oh, you guys are all idiots. We knew this all along," that they're going to drop at some point in time when it gets too obvious. I wonder how they're going to explain that one away, because obviously
Interesting.
it would be medically negligent to just let it go on and not inform the doctors that are Mandela affected about this, because how are they supposed to practice, you know, their profession if they can't get the updates?
That's gonna be something, and eventually, yeah, that this will have to come to a head because what if, God forbid, something actually does happen and, there's difficulties or they actually lose a patient and, this doctor, a particular doctor, especially if it's someone, um that is on, let's say, like a cutting edge hospital, like I don't know, like the Mayo Clinic or something. And, someone high up is going to be able to say with some authority, hey, look, these drill holes were not there. What do you guys think? What's happening? And I'm wondering if those conversations, and I think they have. I think those conversations have probably happened already, because it's just like you said, how do you dispense that information to people that, hey, this sounds a little kooky, but the body is changing in unexpected ways, and it's doing it in brutally fast shifts, and it's doing it without warning. And we're going to go ahead and send you guys the super secret facts, and you'll get the Mandela Effect changes every week.
That would be, yes, I hope that there's something like that. I have a feeling that they're just letting this all play out and that they're
Mhm.
not, like, not giving anyone the information because denial is the first and last move here. To say,
Right.
no, nothing's changing, everything's the same. I was going to say, especially with new things that are very dangerous. The mesentery, for example, that it showed up last year for a lot of people. They'd never heard of the mesentery before. The mesentery has arteries. It's called the mesenteric artery or mesenteric artery system. And a ruptured mesenteric artery can lead to your death. So if your doctor
Mhm.
doesn't know that you even have a mesentery, how is he supposed to help you? There have been cases, I think I mentioned before, about a woman who was in a car crash and she seemed to be fine, but she ruptured her mesenteric artery because the whiplash was so bad, and she basically bled to death inside of herself, and they didn't
Oh
know,
God.
and they just let the poor, they didn't know, they just let the poor woman die because she looked fine. She looked shaken up because she was in a crash, but she didn't have any cuts or anything on the outside of her body, so they thought she was okay. But these are the kinds of things that we need to know because this is literally our bodies now. This is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, the changes are drastic enough now that we're not quite to the two spine phase, but we're certainly, I mean, these things are picking up and we're heading in a very strange direction. And once they started to discover new organs in the body, and I think what really bothered me about that was that people just swallowed that hey, we've got new organs in our guts, and and everyone was just humdy dum. They just went on with their day about it. That really bothered me last year because I think it was the first one that brought it to my attention, I think, was Meigs B, and that was, like, more than a year ago, and it was just everyone was like, "Yeah, there a couple articles on it. By the way, we discovered an entirely new organ in your guts, no big deal."
I know, and to this day, they're like, it's no big deal. It's just like, it
Right,
is a big deal, though. Oh my
right,
gosh.
right. Just weird. So I'm looking at Was I, and apparently Was I's reading a book, The Montauk Project, and he's talking about, quote, the switch was thrown for the final test on August 12th, 1943. There was a blue flash and everything was gone. At the same time, another experiment was going on 40 years later at Montauk. The Earth-like humans had a biorhythm. These biorhythms peak out every 12 years on August 12th. This coincided with 1983 and provided an additional function for the Earth's field for the Eldridge to be pulled into hyperspace. Okay, that's awesome. That's very cool because this further shows that our government is aware that time is a location. So whether it's 1983 or 1943, as long as it's August 12th and it's a location, if you can hit that August 12th or that time like you would a location and return back to that area. And the way I put it was you have an area that's damaged. And what you do is you keep going back to that date because it's damaged, and it's easier to get things done or get things through in that date because the date is damaged, you know. And that's my theory on that. So that's great work, Was I appreciate you throwing out that information for us about Montauk, and because yeah, I always knew that Montauk was tied to the Philadelphia experiment. I didn't know it was tied in this way.
I have heard about the Montauk experiments and the Philadelphia experiment being connected, but I wasn't really sure to what degree.
Mm,
Because like the actual Montauk, experiments, just from everything I looked into it, it just seemed to be like taking runaways, especially boys, and torturing them to see what effects it would have, kind of Joseph Mengele stuff.
mm.
But then it got into kind of a more science fiction, Stranger Things moment where they were talking about, a drug experimentation and torture being used on these kids to see if they could make paranormal things happen. But I never read that things could be different on this timeline, but I never read that they yielded any results from that. I just had seen that this program had gone on. Some people even survived it. The whole thing was shut down. The buildings are still there on Montauk. They're just boarded up. And there was never any official, apology or any kind of help for the people who survived it. It was just denial. Didn't happen. Nothing happened. Nothing to see here kind of deal.
Yeah. 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 I knew it was about torture and all kinds of other unseemly things like that. I didn't, but yeah, I didn't know. And he's mentioning now that August 12th, 2003 was why the date stood out for him. So apparently this is all surrounded with that. So I wonder how October 28th plays into this now. It's very strange because I knew it was around Halloween. I thought it was actually at Halloween, and obviously that's changed, or I had it wrong, but I knew that the original Philadelphia experiment was right around Halloween. So this new August thing is fairly recent to me. Even if it was a week ago or so, it's still new to me. Did you know about Sorry,
No,
go
go
ahead.
No, sorry, I was just saying that I wasn't sure exactly which I remember, August or October, for when I started looking into the Philadelphia experiment, because they spent years like prepping for it. But now that I'm trying to look back at my memories, like in this moment, I know it was, this end of the year, but I can't decide if it was August or October that I originally heard of them like trying to do the experiments for the first time.
Yeah, it's weird that the information is almost morphing in real time in front of us, because now even as we speak, I'm getting like kind of confused, and I don't know. It's all in doubt for me right now, and I'm wondering if I'm being and especially with these shifts happening here on the 6th, is the ending of this thing, my memory changing, the last bits of it. It started with my sternum and it ends with my memory. Is this part of the change? And me being conscious that my mind and my memories are changing right in front of me, because now I'm confused.
I hear you. It's like I think that that I believe that a lot of this went down in August, but since there's that note of ambiguity there where they started the experiments and then stopped them and redid them, I'm not sure that's how it played out on every timeline.
I don't think so either. I don't. I'm like completely. And now, like within the last couple hours here, I'm thinking, yeah, there should be a natural. It's almost like it's created like the shadow memory of a natural connection between Montauk and Philadelphia, and like it was always there, but I know it wasn't for me a couple hours ago, but now it seems like it's being created in my mind, like right in front of me. The connection is being made, and for me personally, and I know others, was I has read a book on it, and you already knew a lot about the torture, alleged torture. You guys know a lot, but I didn't. But it's like being installed or something like right now, and it's very strange to me because I didn't have any of that background. I call it scaffolding. I didn't have any of that there tying the two together, and it's coming to me now, and it's weird. It's very weird.
It is like I hate that feeling when I can feel like an override is trying to come into my memories, and I don't know if anyone like in the chat experiences that too. I presume you guys too, where you know something and then you feel this change trying to push in on top of your thoughts, and you have to like actively consciously reject it and say no, there's no wateriness in my memory. I know exactly what I remember, so please go away. And like that's how I retain like a lot of my memories. Like thank goodness, like I know that there isn't, from the timelines that I came from, that kind of connection between Montauk and Philadelphia, but it does seem to have been written in here, because I know when I say that, I feel that little tingle of like a new memory trying to come in, and I'm just like, no thanks. I want to keep all my stock parts. I don't want any like updates or anything like that, because thankfully I'm not a doctor, so I don't have to know all of the new things. And I don't even particularly like a lot of the Orion stuff, so I don't want to have to learn all of these things or have these things superimposed on top of my memories. I feel like it
Right.
should be something that we should have free will choice about, but it doesn't seem to be. It seems to be if you don't catch it while it's happening, it'll overwrite your memories on you.
Yeah, and I think just being aware of this is what makes it twice as disturbing because none of that was there. And now I'm to the point where I'm like, yeah, there's a natural connection between the Montauk project and the Philadelphia experiment. And there's still a part of me going, no, no, there's nothing. There's no. Now I'm like, yeah, actually there is. And I've had this before where but it was just with specific things, not an ongoing process. I've had specific things that were memories that were at war with each other. And I came, part of the Mandela effect thing for me is coming to peace with having dual memories for the same thing. But these were just like snapshot things. This is the first time where I'm talking about an ongoing process that is a long drawn out thing. And that's what this feels like. It's very strange because I think it's got to rip up because I've always kind of paid attention to things like the Philadelphia experiment and even the Montauk because it's kind of my thing. So you got to rip up a lot of stuff in order to change that around from my background. That's a lot of rewriting of circuitry.
So true, but it's. I think it's almost like more like an absorption process, kind of like it's already not so much a rewiring of circuitry, but there's a different
Mhm.
circuit board there that you could assume if you want to. Almost like those memories are already written out, and it's kind of like, do you merge with that or not while you're moving through different. I don't even know whether to call it timelines or realities. Those are just like easy words to kind of describe what we're talking about. But as you move through this world that keeps changing, I think that it's almost like a lot of these structures are already built. And it's kind of like, do you take that on or do you try and
Mhm.
stay away from that and try to stay as original to yourself as you possibly can?
Right. Right. Yeah, totally. I'm looking at is there something going on in the chat? What's anybody what's going on here? I'm seeing people are not happy. We're coming up on the end of the hour anyway, so I don't know what's going on between. Yeah, yeah. So we have. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this chat room here. Let's see, let's move that. Okay, so I think that's going to be the end of this hour, and I think we're coming up on it. I think we had a pretty good episode. Can you guys like it if you don't mind? And everybody, again, return to the Vision Quest stuff that we're actively working on, um, doing a day-to-day kind of ritual thing, hoping to get a response from the Mandela effect. Our concentration for now, it's still going to be. It's going to be for the USS Eldridge, and for now. It's October 28th, 1943. I have the coordinates posted at various places, and let's just keep it going, guys, and see if we can't get a response back from the Mandela effect. Let's see if we can't get an active Mandela effect change having something to do with either the Philadelphia experiment, the shipyard. We'll just know when it hits us, and those of us that are involved with it, we'll just know. It's going to be one of those things. So, everybody, please let's get together like a whole crew, like a family, and we're going to do this, and we'll direct all of our energy towards it, and we'll actually, get a response back from the Mandela effect. And like Chick said, even if it's just an acknowledgement that it knows that we're doing this is going to be a victory for us. And that'll mean a giant leap for the entire community because we'll actually be getting a response back rather than being just passive passengers watching the Mandela effect change our world. Let's get in there and try to be active with it. So, Chick, unless you got anything else, what's
No, I think that we covered it pretty well. I'm trying to get a live stream out this weekend. It's I was saying that it would be either yesterday or today, but right now it's looking at like it'll either be tonight or tomorrow because there's an engagement party I forgot about that I have to go to. So, but I have to get this video out because like there's been two shifts wherein usually there would only be one shift. So I will do my best, guys, and I will try and get that going this weekend for sure. And thank you everyone for listening to the Lost and Found bin.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Well said. And with that, we will see you guys next week. And please, everybody, keep up with the experiment. If you have any questions, you can drop me a line, and I will. I try to. I'm trying to answer every single person's question. Thanks, everybody. Bye.